Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another episode of Overbooked here on the channel. This is the series where I talk about every single book on my shelves because together we will process grief. Today we are talking about TJ Klune's Under the Whispering Door. Some quick disclaimers before we start. I was sent this copy of this book for free for review, regardless of where books come from. Nobody's paying me to talk about books and all opinions are my own. I'm gonna keep this as spoiler-free as humanly possible while still talking about the book as a whole. If you want to go in knowing absolutely nothing, come back when you've read it and we'll talk then. And I will link the story graph for the book down below in case you want to check out any user-generated content warnings. This is a book dealing with death and grief, and I would definitely recommend checking them out if anything around those subjects is not something you like to read. This is a fantasy, contemporary, gay, romantic, philosophical, thought-provoking book from author TJ Klune. It came out in 2021. There we go. I'm living in a blur of time. I don't know when I am anymore. 2021. TJ Klune is an author of a number of things. We have the Green Creek series, if you like werewolves who are attracted to one another. We've got In the Lives of Puppets, if you want a strange Pinocchio retelling with robots. We've got superhero fiction. Probably what he's best known for is The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I do have a video up for on the channel, and there is a sequel to that coming out later this year. In this book we have a ghost who is collected by a ferryman and refuses to go to the other side. Wallace, our main character, is collected from his own funeral by a reaper and brought to a tea shop, where he meets a collection of characters, all of whom are there to help him get to the end of his journey. But Wallace isn't super sure he wants to go. He's not done with what he started, and he certainly doesn't want to move on to whatever's next. It's a book exploring death, exploring life and its meaning, and love and romance and found family, because TJ Klune cannot be stopped. That is the first thing I've written on my list, found family. If you are a person like me where found family is the trope that will get you every single time, you'll be got. I cannot say how many times I've gone into a book going, not this time, found family. You won't make me look past any flaws in you. And I get to the end and I'm sobbing a little bit because a little group of people found each other and made their own home. It's an interesting one because, like many of TJ Klune's books, the main character Wallace is a very curmudgeonly character, is probably the kindest way of putting it. He is unpleasant at the start of the book, and so that found family takes a little while to build. It's not like something like Becky Chambers where those bonds form very quickly. I think that it's an interesting collection of characters, and I think that it's not as strong of a found family element as some of his other books, but it is there. It's probably the strongest element of the book if you're not here for the conversation around grief and death and all that stuff. However, if you are here for those conversations, which I am, hello, welcome to the channel, it's got dead in the title, I'll be here. I do think it's a really interesting take. I love a book that explores what an afterlife might be like, or an after death, or an in-between kind of situation like this book is. I'm just always here for it. I think it's one of those big things that's really interesting as humans to explore, and that science fiction and fantasy gives us the option to explore. I will inevitably cry at a book that explores death, and I definitely did in this one, and I just think the way it shows you it through different lenses and through different situations. So we not only have people who have died, but we have people who are experiencing loss, people who have died but are kind of okay with it. There's a lot of different angles in this book that are all very interesting, and I think if you're interested in exploring and having some thought-provoking internal conversations with yourself or with a partner, if you're buddy reading this, then this would be an option. I think if I'm being persnickety, I don't know that this book went as far as I thought it was going to. I think it tries to kind of walk the line of being still that cozy TJ Klune kind of read, but it does try and push those thoughts. It does try. If you have read, very specifically if you have read the Green Creek series, I would say this is a softer romance than that. Those books are very, very angsty. They are very spicy. And this is not that. It is much more of a soft, gentle, slow burn romance that is almost could be lifted out of the book and it wouldn't matter. It could be a very platonic story. I'm glad that it is a romance, but it's not taking up the whole of the book. And I think some people, because this is marketed as another kind of cozy-ish gay romance book, get in their heads that that's what the book is about, and I actually don't think that is the case. I think it is much more about the found family as a whole. So yes, if you didn't like Green Creek for that reason, this might be a good book for you, but be warned, if you love Green Creek, That's not what you're getting here, though there is a fair amount of angst. Maybe this is me being a cynical person who was reading a lot of very miserable stuff around about the same time as I did my reread of this. I felt like it wrapped off very neatly. I'm not going to talk about how the book ends in terms of like the actual practicalities, but the way that things ended up happening, it just felt very tidy to me. And I think, for me, I think that death is naturally very messy, and I like a book that leaves a lot of sadness in at the end for when it's exploring those themes. Don't get me wrong, I still love a happy ending. I just think this wasn't quite... It didn't land as hard as I think it could have if it hadn't tried to fix everything. I also think there was maybe an element of shooting themselves in the foot marketing-wise, because this is branded so similarly to House in the Cerulean Sea. And I do think there are similarities, and I can see why they've done that, because I'm not stupid. But I do think this is much less whimsical in a lot of ways, despite the fact that it is still, you know, ghosts and so such. It is less of a quirky book than House in the Cerulean Sea is at its core. And I think had they leaned into that a little bit more with the cover design and branded it slightly differently, that might have set those expectations a little bit better. And I will reiterate at this point in the video that you should probably go and check out those content warnings if you haven't already, because I do think it is important to look those up, especially if you were going to go in thinking, ooh, found family, cozy, fantasy romance time. There are some more difficult elements to this. Some comparisons if you do want to read more. I would say, as much as I've just said that it is different from House in the Cerulean Sea, of TJ Klune's current works, it is probably most similar to that, or In the Lives of Puppets, which is that Pinocchio retelling. I didn't love In the Lives of Puppets. It's not a book I would super recommend. If this was more leaning in your direction than House in the Cerulean Sea, that would be where I would go next. If you want books that are exploring the afterlife, can I recommend the Hell's Library series, Library of the Forgotten, by A.J. Hackwith. One of my favourite trilogies of all time. It's about a library in hell where all of the forgotten stories go. It's so good, and it explores afterlife in a really interesting way. And whenever I'm recommending TJ Klune, I will also recommend The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. It is one of my favourite books of all time. It is the cozy found family that you want. It is not gay, but it has gay characters, and it is a wonderful time, and I will continue recommending it. And we're getting another book from that author this year, so prepare for me to talk about it even more. Should you read Under the Whispering Door? I think this is very specific. I think if you are into TJ Klune's writing and you like this theme and idea, I think it is worth reading. I don't think it is a must-read, even if you're a found family trope lover like me. I don't know how much I would want to pick this up again and again. Though I think, if I'm remembering correctly, when I originally read it, I said there are times in my life where this book would be really helpful and would be a really beautiful read for me. So I might hang on to it just because I know that in life there are going to be times where I want this kind of exploration of life and death and grief and so such. It's not taking up too much shelf space. I think we can hang on to it for now. Have you read Under the Whispering Door? Do you have plans to? Do you have a favourite TJ Klune or similar author? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also come hang out on Discord, where we have chill chats about books. I'd like to say an enormous thank you to all the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They support the channel and in return get early access to videos, bonus content, live streams, and more. If you'd like to join their number, that's linked below as well. Thank you so much to you for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. It's gonna be some bloopers now. Ooh, I should do a Becky Chambers reread. Not right now. And it's probably the biggest selling point of this book if you're not here for the conversation around grief and death.